Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
My name is Larry Martin, and Kelly has been kind enough to allow me to moderate this panel. I think this initiative is a great initiative as far as allowing individuals who are interested in careers, whether it's IT or technology in general, or STEM careers, to really learn about what's happening out there in business and industry, what opportunities are available, and how you can participate or get on that career pathway. So I work with the Regional Employment Board of Hamilton County. We're a state and federally mandated organization, and our task is to oversee workforce development from the perspective of supply and demand. What do the employers need for individuals to help for the growth of their organization? What do individuals need to get into that labor force pipeline to have a career in this field of family sustaining wages, benefits, and some of the better things in life that everybody wants and deserves. So we have a great panel here today. We have 4 subject matter experts. Unfortunately, Rick Hood could not make it today. Notified us this morning that he had a death in the family, and so we're thinking about him. But I would like to start off by introducing, again, Dr. Becky Wailing Packard, who is our keynote speaker for the afternoon. Dr. Packard is the director of the Weissman Center for Leadership and Professional Psychology and Education at Mount Holyoke College. She is an expert on mentoring and persistence with a focus on the experiences of women, first-generation college students, people of color, and non-traditional age students. She studies the transition from high school to college or work, especially pathways in science, technology, engineering, and math, or the STEM careers. Fields including pathways through community colleges. A first-generation college graduate herself, Dr. Packard strives to identify success strategies for individuals and institutions that turn aspirations into reality. In 2005, she visited the White House, where she received the Presidential Early Career Award for Scientists and Engineers, the highest honor bestowed by the U.S. government. Next, all the way at the far end, is Renee Fall. Renee Fall works to increase diversity in computing in Massachusetts and beyond with the Commonwealth Alliance for Information Technology and Education, we call it CATE, and expanding Computing Education Pathways Alliance, both National Science Foundation sponsored events that are based out of UMass Amherst. By working with educators in K through 12, higher education, and informal settings, these projects have improved diversity in computing majors at public universities, expanded teacher professional development and computing curricula in schools, and launched computing camps and outreach programs, and shared research-based approaches to broadening participation in computing. Renee has worked for several college consortia, done grant writing and book publishing, and is always learning and learning. Sarah Tahiri, second from my left, shares her talent for business analysis by leading a team of business analysts at MassMutual Financial Group, where she has been employed for 8 years. Prior to managing a BA group, she worked on many large-scale, multi-million-dollar projects as a business analyst using both waterfall and agile methodologies. Her passion is in helping others learn and applying different tools and techniques on projects to create reuse and efficiencies. She has also led and inspired many business analysts on the journey to be passionate about their career and be proud of being a business analyst, and has worked closely with many interns and high school students to discuss various careers in IT. Before joining MassMutual, Sarah worked for the Canadian government as an IT analyst. Sarah earned her bachelor's degree from St. Mary's University in Halifax, Nova Scotia, Canada, where she majored in computing and information systems. I'm going to find you here in a second, Jackie.
You can make it.
I bounced around on my notes here. Jackie Fallon is president of FIT Solutions, which she founded in 2005. Jackie spent more than 20 years in the IT industries in Western Massachusetts before she developed her unique approach to IT staffing. With more than a decade of experience as a systems engineer for IBM, as well as a stint as the leader of a sales and service group specializing in solutions for business in Northeast. Jackie knows every unique challenge of the IT sector, Based on her belief that small companies deserve a high-quality, personal approach to IT staffing challenges, Jackie founded FIT Solutions in 2005. Jackie is active in the community and participates in the Industry Advisory Board at Western New England College, her alma mater, the Business Advisory Council for the Mass Rehabilitation Commission, the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce, the Economic Development Council, Associated Industries of Massachusetts, Employers Association of the Northeast, and the Northampton Chamber of Commerce. Jackie is also actively involved in the Western Massachusetts.net and CT Users Group. And Jackie didn't put it on here, but I know that Jackie also participates with myself in the Pioneer Valley STEM Network, covering the Pioneer Valley, looking at STEM opportunities for youth, college, and high school students as well. Welcome all. What I'd like to do is have each person speak to you briefly for a few minutes, and I'm going to pose some questions to each of them. And what we can do, we can be interactive with this. I'd like for them to speak. I'll pose a question. And if there's any question from the audience, there'll be a mic going around. If there's no question, we'll move on to the next question that I'll present, okay? So we can start with Jackie.
Thanks, Larry. As he mentioned, I'm Jackie Fallon, the owner of FIT Staffing. We're based in Springfield, but we do IT staffing up and down the Pioneer Valley, over towards the New York border, up to the Vermont border, down to the Connecticut border, and then over to Central Mass, but very focused in Western Massachusetts. I think it explained what I do pretty well there. We do place people on contracts as well as permanent positions, so we work with employers in the area when they need IT staff. And we use IT very generically, so it includes the infrastructure positions as well as engineering software positions. And did everybody get their swag bag this morning? Did you find this in there? No? Yes? So I just want to explain, I know you're technical people, but it took a while for us to figure it out. It's actually a cell phone holder and a cell phone cleaner, screen cleaner, just in case you didn't know that. Over to you, Sarah.
I would have not figured that out, honestly.
You should have seen us trying to figure it out.
I thought it was some sort of a memory drive.
No, it's just that.
Okay. So I'm Sarah Taheri. As Larry mentioned, I work at Mass Mutual. I've been working there for 8 years. We have many offices. Some people think we're just in Springfield, but we're in Springfield, Enfield, Boston, Phoenix, and we have a lot of other remote locations as well. We have a huge IT department, so a lot of people associate Mass Mutual to selling insurance, life insurance, financial services, but there's a lot of IT that needs to happen behind the scenes for us to be able to sell and service our products.
I just put it down.
Do you want me to start from the very beginning? That's it. Becky.
Thanks. Thanks. Hi there. So you already saw me, but if you were here just an hour ago, so I'm not in computer science or IT directly myself. I do a lot of work in partnership with, so I feel like I have an idea of the wide array of ways that fields intersect with each other. So I more operate from the vantage point of being an advisor to many students, and in fact, non-traditional age learners who come back to school and say, I did this when I first got out or when I was first working, and now I want to find my way back in and start again. What's the best way to get started? Or if I take this class, will it close off options, or what's the best way to keep my options open? And so part of the way I'm hoping to chime in is a little bit about ways to get involved or ways to get started, and also ways to not get discouraged when you feel like things are not going the right way.
Hi, I, like Becky, am not a technology worker, but I work with them and I work with people in computing, and I have for the last 8 years. And I listen pretty closely. I also am a bit knowledgeable about some of the programs for education and different ways and routes you can prepare on your educational pathway to pursue whatever path you want to take. So I'm happy to share more about that. I might throw out there just, and this may be one of the questions too, but there is a gap right now in Massachusetts in the IT workforce. There are more jobs than there are people prepared to fill them, that have the correct experience and educational background to fill them. And I've got a lot of data about that, that I won't throw at you, but a couple of points that you should be aware of. While a 4-year degree is common for people in the tech sector, in a lot of jobs, it's not required. And if you look at all the STEM jobs in Massachusetts that are out there right now, almost half of them don't require a 4-year degree. So depending on the kind of job, it's not absolutely necessary that you have a 4-year degree. And the other thing to think about when you're thinking about a technology career is not all the jobs are in the tech sector. You probably know this, but almost half of the jobs are outside of what we think of as the traditional IT sector. So they are in healthcare, they are in education, they are in finance, retail, real estate, all of those areas. And so there's a lot of need in Massachusetts now, and a lot of people are thinking about how to fill that need. Massachusetts calls itself the greatest innovation economy in the U.S., and so it's really getting a lot of attention. So if you're thinking about, or if you're currently in an IT field, I think you're on a very promising track, and we're here to talk more about where that will go.
Thank you. Let our IT person, technology person, take care of his business here. So I do, outside of my work in workforce development, I do have a technology background that includes IT, includes manufacturing and systems and robotics. And this is a very well-balanced panel, because in workforce development, we just can't look at, okay, where is the job and who are we going to plug into that slot. We have to look at the pipelines coming in from various components. We have to look at what Dr. Ling talked about, access for individuals. Not everybody's coming through the traditional pipeline, go to high school, go to college, go make lots of money or not. Some individuals, take a break from school for a while for whatever reason. They may come through a GED or HiSET program to get into college or further their career. There's different pipelines. There's individuals that are changing careers and want to get into IT. I didn't get into IT until later on in my career. I was mostly electronics. Some individuals decide that they're going to change their career. Usually that happens when you're around 40 or so. Sometimes that happens a little earlier because maybe you're not employed, but in general, the average person who's worked for a while looks at that they may have less in front of them than more behind them and say, I want to do something different. So there'll be a lot of individuals, they may want to change their careers. So this panel represents a lot of different viewpoints as far as access, as far as what the job market looks like, as far as the middle skills gap that Renee talked about. There is a middle skills gap, but not necessarily individuals need to have a bachelor's or a master's degree to work in IT. It helps. I'll be honest with you, employers do like credentials. It does help. But one of the things we found out in a lot of conversations I've had with Jackie and other employers is sometimes it's not really about having the bachelor's degree. It's been having the exposure to software development, having exposure to working on hardware, databases, and different types of equipment, or having exposure to different fields of study. We talk about the intersection of technology. It's a big term. Over the past couple of years, it's been recognized that IT does not stand by itself. IT stands with all different fields as a backbone for those fields to grow and be successful, whether it's academics, whether it's in manufacturing, whether it's in IT, whether it's in financial and business services, which are all primary sectors in the Pioneer Valley. So you have to have IT. And right now, there's a huge growth in IT because over the past years, because of the economic downturn and even because of the bubble, when the bubble burst in the mid-'80s, companies were hesitant about investing in IT infrastructure. Now they have no choice. They have to invest or they will fall behind. So there is a great need out there for individuals that have the skills and competencies and the will and drive to do this body of work. So you're coming in right at a great time when there's opportunities. So I'd like to pose a couple of questions and leave it open to the panel, and then if you have any comments, please let us know. So the first question is, could one of the panelists give me some insight or give our audience some insight into the job market in this area for the technology field? Jack, I'd like to start with you.
Thanks, Larry. So, is this on? Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So it's pretty varied, as you probably know if you're from this area. There are, a lot less large employers such as MassMutual and their size. So there's a lot more smaller companies in general, and obviously in the IT field as well, that you may not know about. And really that's a lot of what we do is educate our candidates as to different companies. Hello. So different companies in this area that you would never hear about, small to mid-sized companies that don't typically go to career fairs because they don't have the time and the resource to send representatives to career fairs at colleges. So that's a lot of what we do is, kind of spread that word around. And, everyone hears about Google and the Yahoo or any of the technical companies, but there's plenty, as Renee mentioned, there's plenty of jobs right here in Western Mass that you don't have to go to Boston or New York or Palo Alto to get a career and really flourish in the technology industry right here in Western Mass. So I'd be happy to talk to, how many here are students? And how many are in the technical field already and just here for, okay. So hopefully we can address both sides of that equation.
Sarah, can you comment on MassMutual?
Very much like Larry and Jackie mentioned, there is more jobs in this area than we can fill. We have a number of different positions available and we can't keep up with demand. If you think about it, a lot of our baby boomers will be retiring or close to the retirement age, and that leaves a huge gap for us to be able to keep up with the demand. So technology is ever growing, like I mentioned earlier in the opening. Something like insurance, you wouldn't think, when my husband first told me you should apply for MassMutual, I'm like, insurance? I know nothing about insurance. And he said, no, I think they've got an IT department. He's an engineer and he doesn't really, he's really not in IT. And I said, okay, well, I'll take a look. And when I went into, the career opportunities, I'm like, wow, I was actually quite impressed. When you think about it, anything from the medical offices, hospitals, they all require an app, a portal. Even when I went to the doctor the other day and they, everything is electronic. Everything from the way they log whatever visit you're doing to, you're doing your labs and you can actually see your labs online. Those are all technology behind it, and I think it's really, really important. From a MassMutual perspective, we have various programs for students, high school students, college students, internships. We actually just did a Girls Who Code with a number of high school students who come in and dabble into technology because we really realize that we have a gap and that we want to address it soon.
I only would want to add too that oh, that's good. Just that colleges also, that was the other kind of, it seems obvious, but there's so many higher ed institutions and they all have an IT department as well. And I think that's also can be a surprise for people. They think they have to go somewhere else and find that company, and there are actually so many places, and that also, thinking about actually one of your colleagues who started at the help desk as the work-study job. So there's lots of ways to actually get exposure through a part-time job or through some kind of a student organization. So there's also ways to get involved that way.
Yeah, I would also just add that, here at UMass Amherst alone, I believe, is anyone here from IT, from the central IT department? With IT and all the other departments, there are hundreds of technology jobs at UMass Amherst alone and all the other universities. So if you love a college setting, you can still work in IT and stay in a college setting or another educational setting. We work with a growing number of schools and teachers who want to offer more computing and technology courses for their students. If you have a passion for working with youth, you can do it. You can bring IT education to youth in either a formal education school or a nonprofit informal setting. And you can do that maybe even on the side if you're working in a company.
So as part of our role at the Regional Employment Board, overseeing workforce development, I oversee the labor market research. And I've done quite a bit of research of this field over the past couple of years. You know, this field's projected to grow 20% by 2020. And there is a critical shortage for database administrators, systems analysts, software programmers. I have companies calling me about twice a week. Larry, I need C# programmers. Where can I get them? Where can I get somebody that can do some JavaScript? Where can I get somebody that knows about responsive design in building and designing websites? And this is a great need with the baby boomers. I'm a baby boomer, retiring not too soon, but I'll be retiring. With baby boomers, they have a certain skill set. Those skill sets, IT in general is a dynamic field. It changes every 2-3 years. What's the top software now is not going to be what's going to be the most in demand 2 years from now. Hardware tends to trail software a little bit, but software shifts so much, probably because of the mobility of our devices nowadays, that they need individuals that can constantly design new apps. And one of the questions, and I think I'm just going to go to that question right now, because I do want to find out from the audience, is anybody out there considering entrepreneurial? They're going to open their own business. They're going to be the next Bill Gates. Who needs to show our hands? Who wants to own their own business or work for themselves? That's great. That's great. Venture capitalists are out there. Venture capitalists are other individuals that are looking for individuals with IT backgrounds or technology backgrounds in general. We focus on IT, but technology in general, to help design and build the next greatest thing that's out there. Or you want to design and build your own. You want to keep your intellectual property. We talk about individual organizations that are looking for people. I have companies that say we're always hiring. You may not see an ad in the paper, but we're always looking for some people because we have X amount of people retiring, and we need to create that pipeline. So opportunities are out there. So one question I want to ask is, what kind of educational background is important for an IT career, and where can one find that?
I think that's thrown to me.
Yes, Tony.
All right. As I mentioned, the majority of people in IT professional jobs have bachelor's degrees, but it's not required for all jobs. So I would say the educational background depends on the job. It can go from anything from the commonly touted and often mythologized, self-taught programmer, nerdy geek who goes and makes it big. You know, there are those people. They're very few and very far between, and I know prominent Georgia Tech professor in computer science who says actually nobody really teaches themselves to code. So you can believe that or not, but you can start from zero. But what I say is if you want to pursue this field in high school, take all your math, take all your science. And if there's opportunities to do extracurricular things involving technology, do those, whether they're robotics clubs or helping your teacher with technology, and do other things that you're passionate about. If you're creative, pursue those things. Get to know yourself. And then when you go on and decide to start college, there are lots of great associate's degree programs at community colleges. The thing to be aware of at community colleges is they are built to serve multiple needs. And community colleges have career technical education programs that are specifically designed to prepare you for a specific job or set of jobs. And they're very oriented toward the job needs at that time. And they're a specific program. It's usually called a CTE, Career Technical Education Program. There's another track called the transfer option or the transfer program. And if you think you want to not stop at a 2-year degree but go on to a 4-year degree, you need to look at the transfer programs, because if you decide to start in a CTE program and then decide you want to transfer, you're going to find that not all those courses are aimed to mesh with a 4-year degree. So if you think you want to aim for a 4-year degree, look for the transfer programs, computer science or IT or whatever. And then 4-year programs, there are multiple kinds. There are bachelors of science, which you might find at UMass and other big universities. There are bachelors of arts, that you also would find at UMass, but also at a place like Mount Holyoke or Amherst College. But they're all going to potentially prepare you for a career in technology. Master's programs and PhDs are options depending on where you want to go. But I would say that there really are computing programs at almost all of the public higher ed institutions in Massachusetts and in other states. They're pretty easy to find if you find the right portal, and we actually have one, so I can point you to that. And also, there are ways to start learning on your own. There's a growing number of online and free sort of teach yourself to code programs, and also professional development like this. So I would say if you're not sure about exactly what you want to study, start playing around with some of the free programs, go to sessions like this, but don't expect that will necessarily prepare you educationally for a long-term career.
I just wanted to add, one thing that I had talked about in my talk was about this orientation toward a growth mindset and being the kind of learner that's willing to persist and can have recommendations from others in the workplace, and it might be in a completely unrelated job, but that person that will endorse you and say, this is the kind of person who can learn and will persist and can take feedback. So the other part I'd say in terms of your educational background, it's thinking a little bit about your orientation to work and even, quote, mundane tasks. I often find with students that I work with in my lab, or people who start off in a sort of unrelated job, where you're like, this is just a job, and you kind of treat it that way, and people notice that you're not really there and you're not really present. It's really hard to make the next step. So even if you're stopping in, whether you're working at a coffee shop, or those are my favorite people to talk with about what their next step is, or you're working at Target or wherever you are, I feel like wherever you are and wherever you're working, you want to take that really seriously, because you never know if that is going to be the connection that gets you hooked to your next thing. And the other thing I just want to say is, because I work so much with transfer students, I have one advisee right now who's working as an administrative assistant in the college. She's my advisee. She's actually studying psychology because that's where most of her credits added up. So her major degree will be in psych, but she's doing enough to get a minor in computer science, and she's just amazing. So she's going to do some of her psych research with me on the experience of women in computer science. But meanwhile, she's accumulating those coding classes, and it's actually then, because she works at the college, it's funded, as part of her, there's often through HR, there can be tuition benefits at certain companies. So in higher ed, obviously, you can take courses there. And I have another student, the same thing, her credits accumulated for biology, but she wanted to work in actually one of the tables out there, the common media. She got hired for an internship in the summer. She'd only taken one course, but she had that kind of wherewithal, that kind of orientation toward learning, and she had the most amazing experience, and they're allowing her to stay on part-time while she goes back to school. So I just put that out there too, because sometimes people feel like it's too late. Like, I majored in art history, which is another person that's on our faculty, and she took one coding class, and that actually funded her for several years, even though her degree was in art history. So I just put that out there. It's never too late, but like you said, certain degrees will make you stand out maybe more immediately, but that doesn't mean you can't build a pathway.
I would also add that even if you are majoring in computer science or IT, do things on your own, because that's what employers look for. They'll ask you, what do you do in your spare time? Have you built your own system at your house? Are you building a game? Are you writing an app? It doesn't stop when you close the door for your schooling. Do things on your own. Participate in these types of things. There's users groups for every language possible out there. Start participating in those. They're great networking as well as educational opportunities for those.
We worked with the community college to design a financial and business services customer service training program. And one of the key components, we work with Mass Mutual, Liberty Mutual, a lot of other organizations. And I do want to stress the importance of whatever job you have now, take seriously, because who did the best in our program were individuals that had at least 1 year's customer service working at McDonald's, Target, or whatever, because they've learned to work with that customer. They learned conflict resolution, objection handling, and those are key important traits in an employee. Businesses nowadays don't want somebody that just wants to code, lock themselves in a room and is doing this all day. They want individuals that can help grow their company. So a lot of times when Jackie and I are sitting on a lot of initiatives and we talk to businesses, Big Y was one of them, they said, you know, we understand coding. We have a lot of good coders or hardware individuals. I want somebody that can take a leadership position in my organization. I want somebody that knows a little bit about business because I need to grow my business. And I need somebody that can be that liaison between the tech department and the business department to help grow the organization. So again, getting those key skills. Sarah is a business analyst, but she's a business analyst in financial services. If any individuals here are already working maybe in manufacturing, there are business analysts in all industry sectors. There are business analysts for healthcare. And guess what? You got to know healthcare. You got to know the maybe medical coding or know the characteristics. What's the challenges they have in healthcare? Anybody here looking to go into security, IT security? Nobody?
Interesting.
There's nobody here that wants to get in. You got to be kidding me. Go. All right, that's our next millionaire right now. You know, HIPAA. Anybody ever heard of HIPAA?
No, of course.
All right, HIPAA Privacy Act. Yes. And all this electronic medical records, and with no infrastructure, there's a lot of people scrambling right now to build infrastructure. You know what? They don't have the talent. They're introducing new courses at Bay Path, they're introducing new courses here, and they're looking for individuals coming out, having some kind of certification, whether it's you start off with CompTIA or go on to a more advanced security systems training. You're still doing IT if that's what you want to do, but now you're focusing on protecting systems, protecting threats. There is an opportunity out there for you if you want to grab it. And if I only saw one hand go up, you know, look for this person in 10 years from now, because you'll be reading about him because he took that initiative or she took that initiative. So utilize whatever you're doing now, keep doing, don't blow it off. And I'm going to hand it over with the next question.
Actually, Larry, can we just stay on this question? Can I just add one thing?
Yeah, absolutely.
Actually, maybe two. For those of you who are not in the technical field, I just wanted to say there are still many opportunities in IT, even if you have, you know, an arts degree or a science degree or what have you. A lot of people think of IT as the coder that goes and sits there, but there's project management, you know, that's still in IT. There's testing when software or hardware or whatever gets developed. That needs to be tested to make sure that it works. There's business analysis like we talked about. There's system architecture. So even if you are in IT and maybe you say, you know what, I'm not sure if this is right for me, I don't know if I want to code for the rest of my life. There are various things within IT, and I only named 4 or 5 of them, but we have tons and tons of roles and jobs within IT that fall outside of the normal way of thinking that it's coding. So I think that's really important. And to your point, Larry, about what employers are looking for, and that it's not just the coding and, hey, you know what, I'm a coder and I can develop this great website. I got into this field mostly because I was strong in math and computers and not necessarily on the communication skills. And boy, was I wrong. When I got into that, when I got into the workforce, I realized it requires a lot of written and oral communication. It requires a lot of presentation. So make sure as you're going through school, as you're going through your learnings, make sure you polish that. Polish the other communications, because it's really important, not only in presenting yourself when you want to try to land the job, but also keeping that job, make sure you're climbing the ladder and making sure that you can represent yourself well.
Question?
I had a question, this might end up in Becky's realm. I'm a psychology and music double major. And are you seeing a push from universities or higher ed in non-IT or computer programs saying, like, yes, these are these roles, or yes, you're a psychology student, why don't you go into user experience? Or as that was something that I never experienced, but is that something that's being talked about now?
Yeah, do you want to? And I'll only just say one quick thing, that we're seeing more, I would say on the humanities side, actually one of our computer science professors with an art professor co-enrolling students to make interactive art exhibits using technology, and it's really amazing. So thinking about dance as well, and so there's ways that you're seeing actually a lot of areas in the humanities saying we also need and or want to collaborate with IT, or we are benefiting. So even though in the arts, if you don't know any technology, you're seeing more of that kind of merging more, I would say, kind of an openness and this recognition of the needs where fields intersect. So, but I would say that knowledge is still not out there as much as it could be, and many of us lack that sense of what am I going to be able to do? And so if I'm not working at Google or if I'm not the coder, not a lot of people have heard of project management, for example, that would actually be a role and that you could start as a project management technician, or there's a way to enter that field, and a lot of people might not know about that.
I'll just add that here at UMass Amherst in computer science, a few years back created a second degree, which is a Bachelor of Arts, which is designed specifically to be a double major degree. So students getting one major then can get the second computer science major, which the requirements are different than the Bachelor of Science. But it's designed to go hand in hand with another major because the interdisciplinarity is so crucial, and it's just exploding. I mean, you can't talk to pretty much any scientist these days and find that they're doing something without technology or without, big data enabled research. So there's just a lot of interdisciplinarity.
I was talking to an employer a few months back, and he's looking for individuals that can know coding. He said, but his main thing is, I want somebody that knows critical thinking. I really need somebody that knows that, because his organization designs apps. They design new cutting-edge apps, and they need to be able to understand that relationship, that human interface relationship. And the average coder may not know that. They may get a few courses in that, but a person that's a psych major, sociology major, these different types of, I talked about the intersection earlier. This is what he wanted. He said, I want somebody that knows critical thinking. If they have math skills, that's even better. But critical thinking is one of the things. So again, we're going back to those other essential skills, those other prerequisites if you're in college right now. So why do I really need to take this? Because it's a foundational skill, and it does add up. It may not add up now, but it'll add up in the future. I'd like to pose another question.
I've got a question over here.
Oh, I'm sorry, miss.
A long time ago, Dr. Mulholland and I dragged out computers into the computer field. I was an anthropology archaeology major, and we dragged that large computer out and got a generator, and we were adding information to it, and we knew we could get data in it, but what we couldn't do with it. Every night I had to take that stupid machine apart because all the sand and dirt got into it. And I wound up learning how to build machines before I even knew what they were doing half the time. I wound up getting my degree with a Bachelor of Science in archaeology because of the mathematics and my background in writing programs to work on these data structures. And some of the programs we were writing were ones and zeros because all we had was assembler language. I wound up running into some Microsoft people. They automatically gave me a special low title of being the first woman that was recognized by Microsoft on the East Coast as an OEM. And I also did programming and everything else. And that was 30 years ago. I'm still doing it, even though I'm retired, doing OEM and programming, as well as solutions. Don't underestimate us just because we have gray hair. Because those of us that are retiring, we don't want to retire. We're still active.
Voice from a pioneer. A lot of individuals, the youth, have a direct pathway into IT. Some of us came through IT a different way. Again, I have a technology background, mostly engineering, robotics, prototyping, and systems. How I got into IT was my brother is an engineer, a design engineer at United Technologies. Again, another example of an individual who persevered. This is an individual that has cerebral palsy, and yet probably makes twice as much as I do, could retire anytime he feels like it. But he brought home our first computer. He brought home an IBM PC Junior, first home computer. He brought one home. And he brought home some software. I wasn't really into software, I was into hardware and systems. And he brought home this software, and I'm not interested in Borland and any of that type of stuff, but he brought home the software that was called Doom. And I said, what is this? And I got on there, and then at 1 o'clock in the morning, he sent me home. And then I got hooked on Doom. And I was a technology person, but again, electrical, electronics, electromechanical. And I'm playing this game, and this is just, cutting edge. It's like the introduction to Star Wars. And then the game started crashing because this was DOS. If anybody remember, some of you may not remember DOS, but 2.0. This one was 3.0, and at that time, that was the system. We didn't have the graphical user interface at the time. And I wanted to go on the internet and play this game, but in order to do that, I needed to learn how to set up this computer. I needed to go into the operating system and set up baud rates and parity and everything else, and it just opened the door to my IT career. But again, as the lady mentioned, your different points of entry doesn't matter. It's just that you can do this if you want to and strive to do it. So I'm going to pose a last question and basically leave it open to general comments and questions. And what I'd like to say is, are there any? I do apologize. That gentleman had a question right there.
Just a comment. I got my master's in computer science from UMass in '73. In '76, I think I hired my first female person into a programming organization. Her background was philosophy. She had a bachelor's in philosophy. But I needed somebody who could talk to people down on the shop floor and gather requirements. She learned mumps on her own and went on to a very successful career. So if you don't have technical training, don't worry about it. Mm-hmm. There's plenty of other roles for anybody. I did 10 years of programming and 30 years of project management, systems analysis, ending up with architecture. So, it's all valuable.
You had a question?
Yeah. Is this for the entire time?
Hold on a second, sorry, I can hear you.
So I'm sort of what is considered a career changer. I have both a bachelor's and a master's degree from two very prestigious schools. But I find that after the master's degree, I just felt like I was in just a really bad loop where I was getting the same pay because I had experience before getting my master's.
May I ask what fields?
So I have a degree in film and video and political science from Hampshire College, okay. And then another degree in urban planning, a Master of Science in Urban Planning from Columbia University. And so I've actually been looking at these for-profit coding boot camp, and it's a lot of money. And I wanted to just hear what your thoughts are for people who are career changers who may not necessarily have the foundational skills. What has been your experience with candidates that come out of these programs, and do you recommend this as a way moving forward for someone who's really trying to move forward in their career?
I would say be very careful, because there are some that are just pure money-making operations and don't really give you the knowledge that you need, and they're becoming known as that. So, just be very careful, but look into what they're actually teaching, what you get out of it. If they're reputable, they'll have references that you can call, or they can have former students that took their courses and got jobs. But like any industry, there's some popping up that aren't accredited, and they'll just take your money and you don't get anything at the end. So there are some good ones out there for sure, though.
What I would say is find out the reasons why you're doing it. Is the career change that you want to do strictly driven by money, or is this something really you're passionate about? If it is something you're passionate about, aside from what Jackie said, I would get to know some developers. There's some developers, some coders in various industries and start to maybe shadow them, talk to them. There's lots of different societies and organizations where you can start getting involved and just listening and making sure that this is something you really want to do. You've already made a huge investment in your education. It's not to say you can't get into IT with the degrees you have. You know, network with the people within your school, your career counselors. The colleges you went to are amazing. There's the alumni. Reach out to alumni and find out where they are, what they're doing, and see if there's any way you can connect with them before jumping in. Would be my.
If I can comment, Becky, did you have a comment?
No.
If I can comment on that, I do agree with what Jackie's saying. You know, these type of schools are popping up all over the place. Who benefits from these type of schools, if they're credible, are usually somebody that is maybe have a year under their belt, or maybe a year or two underneath their belt, and they're trying to get to that next level of their profession. If you come from a completely different direction, may not be as beneficial. But what I tell individuals that I speak to a lot of individuals about this, is that you have to also look at what have you done as far as your experience and what you've majored in. And if you want to get into IT or technology, what is going to be complementary to what you already know and have already done. So for instance, you mentioned urban planning and political science. And if you're looking at getting into IT, I would focus more on MIS, that type of IT, where you're not strictly hardware coding or software or firmware, but you're taking a 30,000-foot look at IT systems and somewhat of what Sarah does. But I would also look at GIS, GIS mapping.
GIS background.
Yeah.
But analysts are not paid that much.
Yeah.
So you have to be a developer to be paid.
Yeah. But there are some organizations, again, I'm not sure what you're looking for wages and everything else, but obviously urban planning aligns with GIS and a lot of other opportunities. But what I'm saying is that looking at the MIS component of IT, where you're looking at systems, you're looking at database, you're looking at throughput of data that finally reaches a customer. And maybe it may not necessarily be a boot camp, it may be a course at a local college or two that supplements that. And it may be, as Dr. Ling mentioned, the accessibility to different networks and connecting with them and getting your hands dirty on the computers with a group of your colleagues and peers. So
And I have to say, I disagree with that developers make more than systems analysts or business analysts. I would.
Analysts are different from.
Okay, I'm not familiar with GIS, but I was going to say another recommendation that I had after listening to Larry is, poke around on Glassdoor. There's a lot of jobs out there, and you can kind of get a sense for, how much does a developer make in this company versus a business analyst, a systems analyst, or something like that before you make a decision like that.
Salary.com's good for that too.
Yeah.
It can get very granular.
And there are opportunities to learn depending on your level. I mean, if you're really entry, there are free opportunities to learn online. And also, they were here last year, I believe. I'm not sure if they're here this year or if actually they're still active. There's a group in the eastern part of the state called the Women's Coding Collective, and they were offering small group, sort of a hybrid online courses in a lot of different technical areas.
Okay, I believe we're out of time. Were there any final questions, comments? I did want to mention one thing before I get to your question. I was talking to one of our young students here earlier, and she talked about the interest in Agile and that type of project management. There's different types of project management. Agile is a different approach to project management, and when you look at what courses you're taking, you want to make sure you take courses of value, project management, anything to do with leadership, anything to do with conflict resolution, any type of business courses are great building blocks. Yes?
Also, there's a gentleman out of Worcester that is offering free JavaScript learning over the internet. He's matching you up with others because he wants to give back to the community, and he's giving them problems that is helping nonprofits and willing to give you rights and recommendations if you do the work well.
Thank you. Any other questions? Final comments from any of our panelists?
I would just say we do have a booth here for tomorrow in the career fair outside, so if you want to talk to me individually, I'll be here tomorrow during that time frame with a list of our openings, and be happy to talk to any of you.
Critical shortage of females in this field, STEM in general, but females in this field. Critical shortage of minorities in this field, and critical shortage in general. Existing now, going to get worse. Whether you stay in this region or go across the country for better opportunities, you can't go wrong with this as a starting point. Thank you very much for your participation.